It's gonna be a great day. The sun is shining, the day is bringing surprises, so I gotta do my thing and help my friends win. We're on a collective mission to elevate our positions, to collect the funky dividends. So I offer a helping hand to my fellow sisters and brothers, encouraging them to...
Hi everyone, welcome to Fire with Dr. Ninja Turtle. This is my March end of month spending recap. We're going to see this month all the different changes that I've made in my financial strategy during the month of March, and also what will be my strategy going forward. So let's get right into it. As you can see, I spent no money at Publix, and we're going to go up and see how much money did I spend during the month of March on my expenses and how that compares to what I spent in February. I spent $8.71 on restaurants this month. That's because I was celebrating a real estate closing that I've had going on for quite a while now. And so I'll talk about that a little bit later. But I went to Popeyes and it cost me an arm and a leg. So we won't be going to Popeyes for quite a while. For PetSmart, which is my puppy, I spent $135. Now that could have been doggy daycare, enrichments, or it might be food for my puppy. It's anything related to my puppy because he has no spending limit, and I will never put a spending cap on what I spend on my puppy. So Vacation Hotel, $12.45. I used points for the most part, so I only had to come out of pocket $12.45. Carroll County taxes. I have land in northwest Arkansas where I have to pay annually for county property taxes and HOA fees. This was just the county property taxes. I still have to pay, and I'll pay in April, for the HOA fees. Gas was $77.77. I have a Honda Accord, but gas prices are going up, and it's affecting me. Excuse the beeping from my coffee pot. Lawn care, $40. We spent quite a bit more out of our emergency fund, but I'm talking about what I spent out of my expenses this month. We spent a lot from the emergency fund to pay for the lawn care person to clean up after the windstorm that we had that brought down a lot of branches. And you've seen my shorts on my front yard. My internet, $73. And CVS and medical. This is doctor's appointments and getting my Freestyle Libre 3 monitor for my A1C diabetes. I did not go to Sam's Club this month, so there's no spending on Sam's Club. However, I recently took out $80 from my cash to fund my trip to Maryland because I'm going on a trip for 3 weeks in the month of April. Also, I took out $100 in cash earlier in the month to give to my lawn care person as a tip on cleaning up our yard. Let's look at the total for the month of March. I spent $309.91 at Walmart. I spent $1,144 overall in the month of March. This is still less than the $1,425.57 that I spent in February. So I was a little bit better. However, when we look at further expenses and my future expenses for April, you'll see that my expenses are going to be much higher because I'll be traveling. And when I'm traveling, I tend to spend quite a bit more money because I insist on enjoying life. Now, let's look at my debt paydown. For my credit card for this month, My starting balance was $6,652.53. I made three payments. One was the minimum payment, which was $136. Then I made another payment of $758.33. I made another payment of $787.81. What I used on my credit card this month was $852. The interest that I paid on my credit card was $67.18. And that means that I reduced my credit card debt by $1,682.14. So I have a current balance of $5,889.57. I'm quite happy with that reduction in my credit card for this month. My other big expense that I'm trying to pay down in my debts is my line of credit. And I started this month with my line of credit being $32,299.14. The interest on my line of credit is $302.43. I did not use my line of credit during the month of March, which is a good thing. But let's look at the payments that I made on my line of credit during the month of March. I paid the $645.98. That was the minimum payment. I then paid $600. I paid $1,600. I then paid $2,214.88. I then paid $1,300. And lastly, I paid $240.71. This was a total of $6,601.57. I made a lot of income this month, and we're going to look at that in just a moment. I did mention that in some of my lives that this was a high income month, and that's because I have multiple streams of income. Now, this shows the total at the beginning of March of being $38,000. Now, this is between my credit card and my line of credit, $38,951.67. I am now down to $31,889.57. I will not be paying this amount in April because my income drops drastically, because I have a lot fewer classes that I'm teaching in April, May, and June. So what was paid off in the month of March, which I'm extremely happy about, is $7,062.10. And when I show you my income this month, which was very high, you'll understand how I was able to pay that amount of money on debt. Let's look at my retirement account, because we need to talk about the fact that the stock market has been down. And at the beginning of the month, I had $139,543.44 in my retirement account. Now, these are for my three colleges, how much money I have saved up in their retirement accounts. This amount is down to $131,753.50 because the stock market is down. But I have put $4,800 into this account throughout the first 3 months of this year. And I'm going to stop adding $1,600 a month into my Roth account going forward so that I can accelerate my debt pay down. One of the things that I always talk about is savings rate. And so I want to show you my savings rate, which has been reduced because I'm bringing a lot more of my teaching income home in order to pay down debt. And that reduces my savings rate. However, when we look at the gap between my expenses and my income, you'll see that there is a large gap, which gives me a big shovel towards paying down debt, which is my goal this year. So in January, I had a 70% savings rate. And what this means is, of my take home pay, I was saving and investing 70% of it. But then I started bringing home my teaching income to help me pay down my debt faster. And so my savings rate went down to 38% in February, and it is now down to 32% in March. However, when we look at my numbers now, my income for March and April, which is coming up, you will see that I had a very large income and very low expenses compared to that income in the month of March. This is a new set of information that I'm showing you starting for March and going into future months, where I look at my total income for the month and how much my expenses were for that month. I often talk to you about the gap between your income and your expenses. You want that gap to be as large as possible because that gives you extra money to either invest or to pay down debt. So what I had for my multiple streams of income in the month of March were my pension, my teaching income, because I had a lot of classes that were going on in January, February, and March, but most of the pay came in February and March. So that all is ending. I'm down to just a couple of classes. So my income in April will be much lower teaching income than it was in March. Also, my rental income was very bad in February, but it made a comeback in March. So my rental income was very good in March. The total was $11,000 of take-home pay. This does not count the $1,600 that I put into my Roth investments. So it would have been higher if I had not invested in my Roth. So I brought home $11,000. I spent $1,144, as you saw, in my monthly expenses. And so that means that I spent only 10% of my income this month on my expenses. So 90% of my income went to pay down debt and other expenses. I had legal expenses this month that I had to pay for closing costs, I had to pay bank fees, and that's where the rest of the money went. So $7,000 went towards paying down debt. The other $4,000 went to one-time expenses related to real estate. I'm splitting some land and I was just finishing that up. So that was a one-time fee. But that's where the $11,000 in the month of March went. In April, I am looking at my pension. I'll get my Social Security check. My teaching will be a lot lower because I'm only down to 2 classes right now. My rental income, we have no idea because it's variable every month. Hopefully it's good. If it's not good, it's not good. But we won't know that until the end of the month. I am going to start paying myself a salary. And this is going to go into my high yield savings account, and I will use it for travel in the future. This is a start. I have never paid myself a salary before from my rental income, but every month I'm going to pay myself a $500 salary. In the future, it will increase to a $1,000 a month salary. But what I'm trying to do here is change my life so that I start paying myself first. And that's what I'm doing here. Also, keep in mind, taxes are due in April, and I am expecting to have quite a large IRS tax bill. What I will do is I will make a payment plan with the IRS for my taxes. So going forward, you are going to see how much income I brought in, how much debt I paid off, and what I expect future income to be. So while in April, while I'm traveling, I will spend more than $2,000 on my 3 weeks of travel, which will reduce the amount of money that I pay down in debt. However, in May, I'm not traveling as much, so therefore, more of my income will go towards paying down debt, and that's my plan. I want to end this video on a positive note. Your finances are not based on luck. Your finances are based on consistency. Remember, never let your past determine your future.